had given up.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's about to say.
Craziness.
But his failures only led him to the next idea.
9,999?
Picture Times Square, dim, Las Vegas dark, your home black. Picture no electric light.
10,000. Come on, come on.
Optimism, pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
This weekend, our sold-out iHeartRadio Music Festival featuring over 20 of the world's biggest artists is coming to T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Big Sean will play his second show of the day on Saturday after helping to fight poverty at the Global Citizen Festival, 2,000 miles away in Central Park, New York City. Find out how you can help fight poverty at globalcitizen.org. Experience our festival live on CWTV.com or the CW app, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, Friday and Saturday. And for the first time ever, watch our daytime Village, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, Saturday.
Show hasn't even gone live yet.
Our military service members volunteer.
All right, 1 minute, guys.
Hey, I'm going to open the show
And when they are
and then
severely
throw
ill or injured,
to
returning to their families is only the
Ed
beginning
Ogeron
of
on the
their
loss,
home.
on thoughts on the
The
loss,
Wounded
and
Warrior
then
Project provides
I'll
those brave men and
tease
women
Peyton on the
whatever they
loss
need
and do
to
that
continue
too.
their fight for
What? Oh, you sent me some audio?
for life. So now it's time.
I want to see your face right now. Why did I not have YouTube up? Crap.
.org.
At Lowe's.
I was like, dude, I didn't even know we had no, I just had the bottom lip fried. I was like,
1 minute to go.
I was like, well, that plan's going to ride.
No, we're ready. I got everything.
I know you do, Dave.
All right, 10 seconds.
To 10%, which is something a pro can really appreciate. Offer valid online only from 9/18 through 9/24. Selection varies by store, U.S. only.
Larry did pretty good.
Dunc and Holder live on a Monday, September 18th, as we're live at our NOLA.com Times Picayune Studios at the foot of Canal Street. 88 points. Why is that significant? Because when you add up when the Saints stunk, that LSU stunk, Tulane, you knew they would have some tough times. So you kind of lay off of them, but still, they stunk. 88 points is the margins of loss when you add them all up, as the Saints go down to New England, LSU goes down at Stark Vegas and Mississippi State, and Tulane goes down to Oklahoma. And, Jeff, let's just hear some of the explanations, at least from LSU side and the Saints side. Let's hear LSU head coach Ed Ogeron on their stunning loss.
Guys, obviously we're very disappointed in our play tonight. Give the credit to Mississippi State. They played well, especially on the offensive and defensive lines. They had 285 yards rushing on our defense. We could not stop the option, could not stop the inside run, gave up too many deep balls. Very disappointed in the 9 penalties again. We're going to have to get better, get more discipline. Every time that we got something going on offense, we got called back by penalty. Obviously, we're very disappointed in that. But we have to stay together. We got a lot of football left to play. Got to stay positive with our football team and keep on growing.
How's Sean Payton's message? Is it similar to Ed Ogeron's? Because they both got trucked. Here's Coach Payton after the 36-20 loss to the Patriots in the Dome yesterday.
Look, obviously, it's a difficult loss. There are not going to be a lot of things, that we like when we watch this tape. The game unfolded in a manner where, I just finished telling the players, you don't know how it's going to go, but certainly offensively, we weren't able to keep up with the points that New England was scoring. And credit those guys that did a great job of execution. We didn't play like I feel we're capable of playing.
Jeff, I don't think I've seen, at least, of course, we get instant reaction via social media from people who are angry and just friends and people around town. I don't think I've seen more people more angry in one weekend in quite a while.
Well, I think the LSU game was kind of a shocker. I don't think anybody expected that, and I don't know a lot of people other than myself that thought the Saints could beat the Patriots, especially coming off that opening loss. But I think it was the way the Saints got bludgeoned in the first quarter where there was just no hope. I mean, they were down immediately, and I think the fans are just it goes beyond disappointment. You want to see competitive football, especially in Louisiana and New Orleans, the Gulf Coast. This is a football hotbed. Football means more here than I think anywhere else in the country. So, of course, there's going to be great disappointment and disillusionment when your teams aren't even competitive in games that you expect them to be competitive in. So I understand the frustration, and they demand results. Look, Ed Ogeron and his staff are well compensated. Sean Payton is the highest or one of the highest paid coaches in the NFL. That alone tells you that the resources are being put into the product here to be among the elite, and they're not getting elite results.
And at least for the Saints end, we both witnessed that in person yesterday. And it was just the game felt like it took forever, even though it was actually relatively quick play, not quick play, but normal time frame. But it felt like it took forever because it just dragged, and the storyline just slapped you right in the face. The Saints couldn't get anything going on offense. They got crushed on defense, and it was last week. Had a caller and disagree with my premise of, it's 49 games, it's one game in the season. Well, guess what? They made it a clean 50 for me because it's the same. And look, the way I wrote it, I don't see any signs of this getting better. I just don't right now.
That game yesterday in the Dome was very similar to when the Saints stepped up in class and played. Saints fans aren't going to want to hear this, but played the Falcons in Atlanta a year ago. It was also the last time the Saints allowed 30 points in the first half. And then the other team basically just went in cruise control in the second half and managed the score, and the Saints were in total catch-up mode trying to get back in the game. That's a bad sign when you see two Super Bowl teams, the Falcons and Saints, are able to get 30 points in the first half against you. I know we've talked in the past about the offense has issues. There's no doubt they have issues, but you can't beat anybody when you're giving up 30 points and a half. You're immediately thrown off your offensive game plan, and you're immediately one-dimensional, and then it's everything goes to hell in a handbasket. That's where the problems are in this team, and it's been chronic for the Saints for years. Different defensive coordinators. They got different coaches on that side of the ball right now, and we're seeing some of the same issues, communications issues, breakdowns in coverage, 12 men on the field, 10 men on the field in the opener. It's unacceptable, and it has to go back to the top right now, Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis, because they're the ones putting this product on the field.
I honestly can't recall the last time I've seen so many people just saying it's over, and changes need to be made with Sean Payton. They need to be made with Mickey Loomis. And I'll just say this in our industry, Jeff. It is not easy for you and me to say go out and call for someone's job. It's not the easiest thing to do. It's easy as a fan, but when you don't know these people and you don't know the work they put in and this, that, and the other, it's not easy for you or me to say fire Sean Payton, fire Mickey Loomis. You got to get to a point where you see there's no coming back from it. And they're 0-2, so I'm not ready to say fire Sean Payton. I'm not ready to say fire Mickey Loomis. But they've given people so many reasons to doubt them that if this continues this season, fourth season in a row, me and you will have to get to a point where at least one of them, I would say, we're going to have to call for their job. I mean, we're going to have to do it at some point.
Well, they've got 14 games to figure it out, and they've got to turn this thing around. And look, they were underdogs. The Saints were underdogs in both these games. I don't think most people expected them to win either game. I think they expected them to compete better, and that's the problem right now. If the Saints lost on a field goal at the buzzer to the Patriots at home, like they lost a year ago to the Raiders, I think people would be more understanding when they're not competitive. And let's face it, Larry, I mean, the defensive side of the ball, the only player they're really missing right now is Delvin Breaux, am I right? I mean,
essentially, yeah. Well, if you count Nick Fairley, look, I think they're missing Nick Fairley because Cam Jordan, to me, is alone on that defensive front, and he's the only one, to me, getting consistent pressure the past 2 games. I think they miss Nick Fairley, and that's something. What can you do at this point? There's nothing you can do because he's probably not playing football again. But that's a miss. You missed out. You're missing him, and he would certainly be helping you in that defensive front.
That's a good point. He would be, but the back-end problems are mystifying to me. There's guys running free. Their communication issues are all over the place. Just watching the replay of the game this morning, they're not getting lined up correctly. Guys are trying to talk to each other as the ball's being snapped. I realize they're going against Tom Brady, one of the all-time greats, and a very well-coached team that had extra time to prepare. But the Saints were just outclassed in so many ways in that game. And, look, they're being paid. This head coach is being paid to compete with Bill Belichick. This is a guy that he models himself after, and the Saints organization tries to model themselves after the New England Patriots, and they are so far out of the Saints league right now, it's not even funny. In no way, shape, or form are they comparable to the New England Patriots from the top of the organization on down, and that was clear on the field yesterday.
And, man, did you see the Falcons play last night? The Saints are nowhere near the Falcons.
No.
It's not even close.
Not
even close.
And that I think that's what has to be understood here is it goes beyond just the Saints head coach or the Saints defensive coordinator. I mean, this is an organizational systemic issue that starts at the very top. And when you look at, say, the Atlanta Falcons and the ownership there, the management there, that's why that organization is going the direction it's going with that new stadium and everything they've got going for them. And it's just a trickle-down effect from the top on down. And I think Sean Payton's a good coach in a very difficult situation right now. And that's why I wrote the column I wrote today is for him to turn this around, most of the solutions that you might have to fix the Saints' problems are standing on the sidelines. Terron Armstead, Zach Street, Delvin Breaux, Nick Fairley. Those are key players at key positions in this game that they're not going to have back, and yet the schedule remains very difficult right now.
And you could say, okay, injuries this, injuries that, if this was year 1 of this. But you can't get away with this anymore. It doesn't matter. You've lost the benefit of the doubt. I've probably said that hundreds of times over the past probably year. They've lost the benefit of the doubt. You can't say, oh, well, they could have had this, they could have had this. I've heard if for 50 games. If this would have happened, if that would have happened. Well, if you were a better team and a better coached organization and a better run organization from top to bottom, we wouldn't be having to say ifs for 4 years now. We don't have to say it.
Correct. The New England Patriots were playing without Dante Hightower, Julian Edelman, and Danny Amendola. They were down at one point in the game to 2 receivers.
Gronk got hurt.
Right. They had a number of players get hurt. Last night, the Green Bay Packers were playing without their 2 starting tackles and a number of other guys, and they ended up losing a difficult game on the road, but they competed well for a long time. And that team, will get it righted. So everybody in the league has injuries and loses players. That's part of the NFL. It's not an excuse. And to the credit, I haven't heard Sean Payton say that. I haven't heard any of the players say that. But you got to get past that. That happens week to week in the NFL.
Yeah, we have left today wide open, guest free, by design what we did last week. We want your opinions. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. You give us a call. We'll let you vent your frustrations on LSU. We'll let you vent your frustrations on the Saints. And throughout, we'll hear from Sean Payton. We'll hear from Cam Jordan. We'll hear from Michael Thomas. And we will hear from Kenny Vaccaro. Of course, that is a major storyline leaving the game. They benched Kenny Vaccaro. Sean Payton didn't hide it. Kenny Vaccaro doesn't know why. And, oh, by the way, Kenny Vaccaro has been subject over the last couple of days of trade rumors. And it's week 1, Adrian Peterson. Week 2, now it's Kenny Vaccaro. It's like there's a new storyline going throughout this thing, and what's going to be next? I mean, if you go up to Carolina and you lose, what's going to be next? That's where the Saints are right now, and us watching it because a new frustration pops up. like I said, it's because it's not just 0-2. It's been habitual for years now.
Yeah, when you lose, frustrations mount, and these are the kind of things that start to happen. Saints got to keep that locker room together and try to somehow get a victory and get some positive momentum and confidence going in the locker room.
So 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. And, of course, look, you can watch on YouTube. You can hear us on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeart Radio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
The second annual Wine on the River is Saturday, November 11th at Audubon Aquarium Plaza. Tickets on sale now at wineontheriver.NOLA.com, with proceeds benefiting the Louisiana Hospitality Foundation. Presented by...
Whoops. Hey, y'all got a pen handy?
I do.
NOLA 38.
All right. The Cajun Goat in Avondale.
And I want to talk to you about air.
Avondale. Okay.
Yeah, I've never heard of him before. I think he says he called Gus's show.
Oh, I don't remember that. Well, I must have been long gone.
Well, yeah, I think he's talking about currently.
Okay.
So, yeah, because, I mean, I've never heard of the guy, and I'm a talk radio junkie.
Yeah.
So, all right, hold on.
All right.
2.5 minutes.
Smart.org, a message from the Rubber Manufacturers Association.
For many businesses, hiring is tough. You want access to highly qualified candidates fast. And you don't want to sign a long-term contract or pay upfront fees. That's why you need Indeed.com, delivering 6 times more hires than any other job site, according to independent research. Indeed is offering new users a $50 credit to give their first job post premium visibility as a sponsored job. Redeem this offer at Indeed.com/credit. That's Indeed.com/credit. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Each morning before you wake, you dream of breakfast like Mom used to make. Eggs, bacon, potatoes too. Amazing food.
Oh, hey, you there?
Yeah. No one's
I keep hitting the wrong damn button. I'm talking to myself, apparently. You got another caller, Lance in Houston.
Okay.
And so, did y'all ever hear the that little fill cut I did that had all the callers on there?
No, I don't think I did.
Oh, okay, yeah. I put together a bunch of little fill things. It's just it's the fill category, just fills up, empty spot blocks.
Right.
And it's just basically you going, Will in Uptown, Jimmy in Gretna, Bob in Gentilly,
Oh, nice.
Like back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
That's good, too, all the different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Well, and also they had a bunch of people from out of state, like, what was the guy in Dallas, and then a guy in Bossier City, Shreveport.
Yeah, it was wildfire last week.
That's
Jeez.
great.
Yeah, right.
At 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday. And for the first
And
time
these are
ever,
different
watch our
people
Daily
calling this
Village
week. They didn't call last week.
Yeah, I don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
Heart Radio Music Festival.
I mean, that's good, though. I mean, it's because I've been taking these cuts and sending them to the salespeople and get your ass out there, sell some damn spots.
You think?
I got to get paid.
With top quality paints without the paint store price. Like,
all right, coming back.
Okay.
Glidden lasts longer, covers better, and costs less at the Home Depot. Nobody beats our prices, guaranteed. So save time and money with Glidden. Paints that get the job done. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. U.S. only.
I went to a party last Saturday night. I didn't get a break. Got in a fight.
This is...
Those aren't the words. They changed the words.
Lady, New Orleans.
Late for my job and the traffic was bad. Had to borrow...
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Before we go to the phone lines, Jeff, at least one positive came out of the Patriots game. No wide receiver shot any arrows into the stands. None.
He came close, though.
He came close. So much so, I guess Brandon Cooks figured, maybe I'll just take it easy on the little reverse at the end of the game. And he took a knee. The guy took a knee.
Yeah, that was embarrassing, I think. And he wanted to get in the end zone on that one. Ball was underthrown. He had beaten... I think it was Devontae Harris. He had done
yes.
But that's why he got
right. But yes,
he got some pressure and couldn't quite get into that throw, or it would have been a touchdown.
That would have been a touchdown. But yeah, at the end of the game, you knew they were just trying to get him, and he just said, "Nah, I'll take a knee. I'm good."
Yeah, little victory dance for Brandon Cooks, and he took the high road after the game. Had very complimentary things, and I did notice that Sean Payton, after he shook Bill Belichick's hand, went right to Brandon Cooks. First player he went to congratulate him.
Well, I'm sure Sean Payton had to eat some humble pie. I mean, what are you going to do? And
right,
that's what you can do.
He went right to him. I appreciated that, and I thought it was interesting after the game. And we haven't talked about this, and I don't know how fans would react. Probably not well right now, but on the field after the game, when we're up in the press box writing, oftentimes you'll see Drew Brees and some of the other players down on the field with their kids, throwing footballs, enjoying kind of some family time after the game. Yesterday, Sean Payton was down there with Steve Gleason and his crew for a long time. I mean, spent a lot of time with Steve, and you could just tell he was kind of venting a little bit, but also, investing in some time with Steve Gleason. And I thought that was very impressive. He wasn't going and letting this loss stew. He was kind of trying to get some perspective, it seemed like to me. And that is a perspective for you, a chance, I think, to talk about the game with someone that played the game and also kind of get some perspective.
504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's hit the phone lines. Cajun Goat in Avondale. I am afraid to hear what the Cajun Goat eats for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but let's have him on the show. What's up, Cajun Goat?
Let's just say I was chewing a lot of wood yesterday.
Tin cans.
Man, I tell you, my problem with the Saints is I think they have a lot of potential, and I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give this to you. I think they have a lot of potential that they could have won either one of those games. But I think the biggest problem that we're having is we do not have any safety play whatsoever. Our safeties, we sat down and said, we're pretty deep at safety. I don't see it. And I don't understand why we don't put Raphael Bush in, someone who played last year, someone who has NFL experience, but yet we're starting two rookies. When the Saints were successful and went to the Super Bowl, the highest play on defense we got was our safety play. Sharper was our safety. We had somebody roaming around the ball. They were scared to get rid of the ball. But our safety play has been horrid for all these 7 and 9 seasons. We tried to get in Bird. That doesn't work. Defenses are now run by the safeties, and I don't see any safeties right now that we have that have enough experience other than Raphael Bush. I'd like to see him get a shot to be on the field. To be in the right place at the right time.
All right, well, hey, Cajun Goat, appreciate the phone call. Why don't we switch gears for a second and address the safety position, because that is a big storyline leaving this game. Sean Payton benched Kenny Vaccaro, and after the game, Dave, why don't we play that soundbite? Let's hear what Sean Payton had to say after the game about sitting Kenny Vaccaro.
No, listen, we need to get more consistent play. That dates back to last weekend, so we're gonna play those guys.
What's your reaction to reports that he might be traded?
Yeah, I think it's not unusual this early in the season for teams to call about teams that have depth at running back like we might with depth at safety. So outside of that, no reaction.
Well, Kenny Vaccaro is someone who, give him credit, he's always been someone to talk to the media, and that's why he's won in the past the quote-unquote media good guy award, because good, bad, ugly, whatever, he's still going to talk to the media. And he took this subject on head-on and certainly had a different perspective than what Sean Payton had. Here's Kenny Vaccaro after yesterday's loss.
You weren't as involved in the second half as the first half. How frustrating was that?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know why I got put out the game.
I didn't
understand.
Do you take that as being benched?
I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't understand.
So how did you react?
Be different? No.
They didn't explain nothing to you?
No.
How did you react when they pulled you, though?
No. Just ready to go whenever they call my number. I'm not. Listen, I've been here for the last 4 years. We hadn't played up to par on defense, and I understand how it goes. I got to be better. My preparation, got to be more consistent. Like I said, the game before, I had plays that I wanted to get back, but that's going to happen. But at the same time, yeah, I didn't understand this game, what happened at all. But at the same time, I take full responsibility for all that, and I got to move on. Got to keep pushing.
How did you think you were playing?
I don't know. We got to watch the tape. I know Gronk had 2 catches on me, really great catches. That was about it. That's all. That's all that really happened. The next thing you know, I'm sitting next to Coach Payton. It was good.
And even the Saints PR staff was trying to cut off the interview, and Kenny says, no, I'm going to get asked about this tomorrow. I'm just going to do it now. Like I say, I'm going to give Kenny credit, but this is significant. Kenny's one of the highest paid players on defense this year. Look, he's in the final year of his contract. He's got the 5th-year option. His salary jumped big time. And we've talked about Kenny Vaccaro's contract situation a bunch. This cannot be a good sign, and especially when the Saints drafted second-round picks at Von Bell and Marcus Williams. And, look, that's what Cajun Good's getting at. Safeties need to be playing better, and I think Sean Payton wanted to see it. Now, Jeff, you watched the game again, and nothing totally stood out to you, right, with Kenny Vaccaro?
Well, he didn't run hard to the ball a couple of times. There was in one particular play, fans might remember this. You might remember it. Remember there was a long pass play down the Patriots sideline when the ball popped loose at the very end, and the Patriots recovered it, but it was ruled down anyway. I think it was Chris Hogan. He wasn't pursuing the ball hard on that, and you could see it. If he was running to the ball and that were a fumble, he would have gotten to it, but he didn't run hard, and the Patriots recovered. Maybe somebody on the sideline saw that. There were a couple other times very similar in pursuit, wasn't running to the ball, but I'm not sure you could single him out for that. A lot of guys do that in the NFL. When the play gets by them, they're not giving all out effort. But, look, Kenny Vaccaro is one of the leaders, as you say, on the defense. He's a guy they expect to lead that young secondary, and if they're getting the wrong message from him by the way he plays, or if he's giving up a little bit on a play, Sean Payton's going to try to correct that because he expects more from him, and I'm sure they've talked to him this offseason and said, look, if we want to bring you back and sign you to a long-term deal, we've got to see you do it this year. This is a big year for you, and I'm sure he knows that, and they're already seeing some bad signs. So I think Kenny Vaccaro's time here is ticking. I think his tenure here is either he's going to get traded or he's going to walk in the offseason. I think the signs are there.
504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's hit the phone lines again. Lance in Houston. Lance, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got, Lance?
Hey, fellas, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, man. As a fan, I've never wanted to call for somebody's job, but if I don't see somebody move this week, I'll be shocked. I'm not going to touch on their game plan because I know the intricacies of what Sean Payton does on offense. I just don't understand why, if you've lost your safety blanket in Snead and Michael Thomas is obviously double covered, you don't have your 2 left tackles. Why are we running what seems to be a normal type offense? You think you'd want to kind of scale it back and do something that would make sense. And I'm sorry, man. If it's 3rd and 3, I'm not throwing the ball to Ted Ginn. I don't care if he's 15 yards wide open. That deep ball that Drew threw when we needed the first down, I'm going to just leave that alone. No,
well, I can tell you what, Jeff, we sit next to each other in the press box for the game, and Jeff said the same thing, like, what are you doing? Just get the first down. I mean, what are you doing?
That's it. That's it. But, it's Drew. I question it, but it's Drew. Now, on defense, we got a lot of new moving parts. I think our D-line is good. I love the linebackers we have now. But this stuff on the back end, I'm with GOAT. Why is Bush not in? Vaccaro's not the man to line up DB. That's just not who he is. He's more Cam Chancellor than Earl Thomas. You need to put Bush in and let Bush handle that back end and sit Marcus Williams down. I mean, let the boy learn. Don't put him out there to the wolves. If we're doing that right now, then just admit we're not going to be good. This is the learning season, and re-up for next year. But put Bush in the game and stop letting Vaccaro have the responsibility of lining up the secondary. That's not him, man.
Hey, Lance, appreciate the phone call. Appreciate the candid thoughts, Lance.
Good points. Yes. Really good observations, Lance. And I would say that I don't even know if Kenny Vaccaro is doing the lining up. I think that is what Marcus Williams does at free safety. And I think they're making a long play here on a lot of these young defensive players like Alex Anzalone, Marcus Williams.
Struggled yesterday. He looked fine against Minnesota, one of the small bright spots on defense. He looked like a rookie, not ready for past situations against Tom Brady with the two touchdowns. I mean, he just looked like the rookie that he is.
It's going to happen. You're playing rookies against the defending Super Bowl champions and one of the greatest quarterbacks and tight ends to ever play the game. That stuff is going to happen. The Saints are going to try and live with those mistakes early on and hopefully keep this ship together and make a run midseason. That's got to be what Sean Payton and his staff are thinking, that they've got to live with these mistakes early on, tread water, scratch out a victory here or there, and then try and make a run once they get Armstead, Bro, and Willie Snead back.
504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. David in Las Vegas, if you're still there, hang with us, and we will take more of your phone calls throughout the show. Basically, airing our grievances, Saints, Patriots, LSU, Mississippi State. You want to jump in the conversation, feel free. We'll also hear from Sean Payton, Cam Jordan. We'll hear more from Ed Orgeron. And I had a chance to catch up with Michael Thomas and a couple other reporters, too. And some interesting things that Michael Thomas told me. Even afterwards, he wanted to make sure to tell me how he's being defended. I'll bring you those thoughts, and Jeff will probably bring some stats of depression, as he's already put on Twitter this morning. So come on back, sports1280NOLA.com and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Major key alert. Don't ever play yourself. You want to get that paper to secure the bag?
All right, 3 minutes.
Paper and get an A+.
And David in Vegas is still on hold.
Okay, Matt and David in New Orleans is gone.
The key is to make it, so make it.
Yeah, that is correct. David in New Orleans is gone.
Cool.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Unbound.org.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. It looks like through the afternoon into midweek, we are expecting summer-like weather to continue. It will be warm in the upper 80s to low 90s for daytime highs. On top of that, rain chances coming in, albeit low at 20 to 30%. Most areas dry, but if you do get a downpour, it could be heavy. Overnight lows staying warm and muggy still at 73 to 75. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
There's a girl in El Salvador who dreams of becoming an engineer. There's an elder in Uganda who dreams of having a community to call his own.
Just like,
no two dreams are the
just
same.
deal with it.
Help one person achieve their
Maybe we
dreams.
get,
I'm just like, I don't know what to
maybe
do.
we get one of those guys over here that can.
Nothing changes America like a role model. I had one growing up. My name is John Hope Bryant. I wear a suit today because my dad wore a suit when I was growing up. But kids want to be rap stars, athletes, and drug dealers all too often because that's what they see in their neighborhood. My mission now is to give them something different to see, and you play a role in it. It's called America 2020 and Hope Business in a Box Academies. Go to OperationHope.org today and join the movement to make school cool once again. Visit us on the web at OperationHope.org.
I've always wanted a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine?
Look like the team
Could you
that
be
went to
mine?
running backs were involved.
Won't you be my neighbor?
Hi, neighbor.
Mr. Rogers passed
Till they play
along
them
friendship in his neighborhood, hoping we would do the same. So let's get started.
Well, Jordy
Friendship.
Nelson left,
Pass it
game
on.
early.
The foundation for a better life at values.com.
Morning, officer.
Hi there.
Why are you sitting under the levee under the Hellbox Bridge at
1 minute.
4 in the morning? Yeah. The opening of the Alligator Festival. It's the best party ever.
Alligator Festival. That's not until
Friday, September 22nd. Yeah. Music, rides, crafts, mouthwatering Cajun dishes, and live alligators. The Alligator Fest is fun for the whole family. With music from the best bands around like the Wise Guys, Waylon Thibodeau, Amanda Shaw, and more.
Ooh, they are good.
I'd sing a few lines, but I'd wake the pigeons.
Move along, sir.
Hey.
Bring the whole family to the Alligator Festival. Baby alligators, the arts and crafts mall, Cajun cuisine, carnival rides, and live music, all for just $1. Visit alligatorfestival.org. The Alligator Festival.
Our military service members volunteer to protect us in the most dangerous places around the world. They step up. And when they are severely ill or injured, returning to their families is only the beginning of their long road home. Wounded Warrior Project provides these brave men and women whatever they need to continue their fight for independence at no cost for life. So now it's time for a grateful nation to step up. Join us at findwwp.org.
Whether you ride the wave or like to growl, we're talking your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. At least a shred of good news for the Saints. Panthers tight end Greg Olsen will undergo surgery. He broke his foot yesterday in the Panthers win. Panthers, by the way, 2-0. Falcons, by the way, 2-0. Tampa, by the way, 1-0. Saints, as many predicted, 0-2 to start the season. Already in a hole.
They've been in a hole like this the last 4 years.
50 games. Jeff, get on board, Bobby. 50 games.
But I think we expected them to start slow this year. With the schedule came out in April. It's more the way the slow starts have occurred than the fact they're 0-2.
I agree there. If they lost 2 tight games, one to Minnesota at Minnesota and one at home to New England, people might disagree because they think I'm doom and gloom all the time because I've seen the same thing over and over, and I'm basically just hitting my head against a wall, and the only thing that's hurting is my head. But no, it was not competitive. Neither one was not competitive, and that I can't tell you the last time I've seen it. Maybe I feel like maybe I'm just being hyperbole because I've probably said that at some point in the last few years. It's just kind of beating you down almost, and you've just seen it and seen it and seen it, and you're just like, oh, this is even worse. This is even worse because it's never better.
They've not been within double digits for 1 minute of the second half of either game. They've been down by at least 10 points in both these losses. Now, I mean, so they're not in it in the second half, and that is very disturbing.
504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's head to Sin City. David in Las Vegas, I'm assuming, listening to the iHeartRadio app. David, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Hey, guys. It's good to be on with you again this week.
Appreciate the call.
Well, I got a lot to throw at you. I will have to say, guys, they have to do something about that defense. I mean, I know this is like a broken record here, and I'm not throwing anything else that everybody doesn't already know. But, listen, Raphael Bush has got to be in there. We're not as much as I love Kakaha, he's a situational pass rusher. We need a dominating defensive end or somebody else that's going to bring it every play, every game.
Hey, David, just a heads up real quick. Haley Kikaha did have a sack, and that was good to see, but he played 9 snaps. So you're exactly right. He played 9 snaps yesterday.
Yeah, and that's what I don't understand. There's been so much inconsistency, like Okafor, I didn't even see him on the field. I mean, he may have been there, but I didn't see him do anything yesterday. You got, the Vaccaro situation, which is very dicey. I mean, Vaccaro's been in Sean's doghouse for several years. If you guys remember, back in 2014, he was actually suspended. If I remember, he got suspended. Didn't he get suspended or benched for latter part of the season?
Yeah, he got benched.
Anyway, he's very inconsistent PED thing, and I just think that at this point they don't want to pay the guy. He's going to be, and you could bring him back. There's a lot of issues. I think it's better if they just trade him or let him walk. But at the end of the day, we need. There's no flow, whether it's on offense or defense. If you look at both sides of the ball, there's absolutely zero flow going on with either side of the ball. And we just got to get more consistent. But definitely pressure on the quarterback is lacking. I didn't even see Sheldon Rankins do really anything yesterday. I thought he was hurt or something. I didn't see him, which was a little surprising because he's been pretty consistent since he's been back from injury last year. So I don't know, guys. We just got to get some better decisions. We got to make some better decisions on who's going to be playing and stick with those guys, and we'll see what happens.
Hey, David, appreciate the phone call once again from Las Vegas. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Interesting tweet just now from our good buddy who is in town, Ben Verlin, NFL and Patriots writer for the Boston Globe, and basically saying props to Tony Romo for predicting that Saints safety Kenny Vaccaro would get benched. So I'm betting in a production meeting or even just a side meeting because, of course, Sean and Tony are very, very good friends for a long, long time. I'm sure Sean Payton put a little bit of a bug in his ear that Kenny was on the ropes, and obviously we saw that, and now we've just got another layer of drama outside of Adrian Peterson this week. And oh, by the way, you want to hear the running back reps this week?
Yes.
Mark Ingram, 35 snaps. Alvin Kamara, 17 snaps. Adrian Peterson, 16 snaps. So much so how the storyline changed. I don't know if anyone even talked to Adrian Peterson or tried to talk to Adrian Peterson after yesterday's game because his drama is so far down the list because there's so many bigger issues.
Yeah, that game didn't play out to where the role that Adrian Peterson has been signed to play was going to be utilized. I mean, he's going to be the finisher in the second half, a guy when you have a lead. He's the backup running back. He's Tim Hightower is what he is. And the Saints were down by double digits immediately in this game, and he doesn't play in their nickel offense, so he's been deemed irrelevant in games like that. And so that doesn't surprise me at all. One thing I would say to what the caller earlier about the defensive line, look at the New England Patriots yesterday. Their defensive lineman, this guy named Dietrich Wise, I don't know if you're familiar with this kid, but it's a rookie fourth-round draft pick. In this past year's draft, listen to what he had yesterday. He had a sack, 4 quarterback hits, a run stuff. He drew an illegal hands penalty and then drew 2 holding calls in one game. If the Saints ever had a guy do that, anybody, we'd anoint him as, we'd have a statue erected outside of the Superdome.
So basically, Troy Hendrickson. That's who this guy would be equivalent to in the draft world.
4th-round draft pick. Trey Flowers, another 4th-round draft pick, quarterback hit, 3 pressures. They're getting it from guys. The only 1st-round draft pick in their defensive line is Malcolm Brown, the defensive tackle. Trey Flowers, Lawrence Guy was an undrafted, unrestricted free agent they brought in from Baltimore. He had a really good game, I thought, yesterday. Now, they didn't play well against Kansas City, and obviously the Saints have offensive line issues. But Andres Pete, I can see why he's been moved to guard. He struggled at left tackle.
Wise went up against Pete quite a few times, and that was part of the issues.
And Sean Payton made a point after he went to Brandon Cooks, going right up to Wise and congratulating him on the game because he knew how much he got after the Saints offensive line.
504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. What you got?
And Jeff, to your point in talking about, a lot of these guys for the Patriots that are 4th, 5th round picks, guys that are undrafted free agents, and this is probably a conversation because I don't want to divert it from all the real nuts and bolts of everything that happened in the game, but I really think that we have to talk about, in context, how unbelievable it is that the Patriots, knowing that the NFL is set up as a league to prevent this from happening, this now 21st century dynasty, because when you think about the Steelers, the Cowboys, the 49ers, like these teams with now 5+ championships in the history of the NFL, we thought we'd never see that again. We thought we would never ever see the day where an organization would not only rebuild and reload, but be able to win a Super Bowl perennially every year. It's just amazing.
Yes, look at defensively. Rob Ninkovich retires. They get rid of Coney Ely, a guy they traded for, figured he'd come in and start. They unload him. Oh, no big deal. They get this Wise kid to come in and just do their thing. And so, I don't know how good the Patriots are going to be defensively because actually Malcolm Butler was not a starter. So maybe the Saints did dodge a bullet, but maybe not. I mean, Malcolm Butler would have to be better than some of the secondary guys they have. Like, Marshawn Lattimore actually played really well yesterday. I would point to him and Cam Jordan, and that would be it from yesterday. That would be it.
No doubt about it. Great point, Clyde. And I think that comes back to the organizational philosophy the Patriots have, and that is draft and develop, use free agency to plug some holes. But these 4th-round draft picks we're talking about on defense are guys that they brought in and developed over time. And I know that's what the Saints are trying to do.
We got 2 calls.
The developmental part that's lacking right now.
504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's go first to Cordell in Minnesota. What's up, Cordell? How are you, my man?
Hey, how y'all doing today?
Hey, the sky, it's not completely falling. New Orleans is still here, but there's probably depression around the city.
I tell you what, man, it really, really sucks when you feel like your team's season is over in the second week of the season. That really, really sucks. Let me just say a couple of things. One thing I want to get out the way real quick. I know people are talking about the Saints trading Vaccaro. Who's going to trade for Vaccaro? He can't cover.
And he's in the last year of his contract. He'd have to agree to a deal, So, yeah.
Exactly. So that's not going to happen. Another thing I noticed yesterday, watching the game. Well, first of all, we got beat by essentially some running backs, a tight end, and most people account probably a third receiver. You understand what I'm saying? against defensive backs. I mean, they were running backs beating our defensive backs, and I also noticed that we were getting blown off the defensive line. They were running the ball up our butts, man. That was just an insane play yesterday. I bit the cheese, man. I ate the cheese over during the preseason. That's all I got to say, man.
Appreciate the phone call as always. Look, I think a few of us ate the cheese. Let's go one more call. I want to leave one on hold for the break, so let's go to Steve in Baton Rouge. Steve, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got, Steve?
Yeah, I also bought the cheese during the preseason, but let me say this. What is the end game here? We go 7-9. Sean Payton's out. What's next? This is going nowhere fast.
Well, Steve, look, I think if they do go 7-9, you're right. I think a major change is going to happen. I think Sean Payton, they would have to, and Jeff, we've talked about this so many times, you can't necessarily fire the guy, but maybe there'd be some sort of agreement to cut ties. And what happens to Drew Brees? Do you send him on his way, or does he go on his way? I almost feel like if you got to that point, I would be more apt to say, Drew, do yourself a favor and go find a winning situation before it's too late.
I think everybody would understand that, and I think that's exactly what he would do. I think if Sean Payton, if there's some kind of amicable divorce, go find another suitor kind of thing, which is what I think would happen, then I think Drew Brees and Tom Condon would find another team to play for.
Something tells me this conversation will be pretty much the same for the next couple of months, Jeff, so gear up.
But a win will turn that thinking around. They've got to find a win somehow.
Well, temporarily.
Sure. I mean, if they turn it around, people will jump back on board.
Yep, 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. No guests today. Callers, more than welcome to chime in. We haven't even really touched on LSU. I assume we'll do a lot of that in the second hour, but we're talking Saints, Patriots, LSU, Mississippi State, both bummer, depressing losses for the fan bases. So come on back here, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
New Orleanians are passionate about local sports.
Join Corey Johnson on The Neutral Ground.
Maybe more so than any market in America.
4 till 6.
I think it is a super tight connection.
Sports 1280.
New Orleans.
If you need a payday loan fast, try LendUp.com. Apply online in minutes on your phone, and you could have cash in your...
All right, we got 2 minutes.
Okay.
LendUp.com is the better payday loan, with no hidden fees, and good credit is not required. Visit LendUp.com. LendUp is a licensed credit services organization.
All right, if we don't have any callers, I'll probably smash through some of this Peyton sound.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we're all clear right now.
Okay, cool.
The better way to borrow.
The best way to protect wildlife is to protect the land on which they live. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust works with private landowners to establish permanent sanctuaries. To learn more, call 1-800-729-SAVE or visit wildlifelandtrust.org.
iHeartRadio now makes it even easier to listen to all your favorite podcasts. No need for another app. All the biggest names in podcasting can be found in the iHeartRadio app. Literally thousands of them, like NPR's full lineup of podcasts, including the TED Radio Hour, plus Bill Simmons, How Stuff Works, The New York Times, comedian Mark Maron, Barstool Sports, and more. All available for free. Now your favorite radio app can be your favorite podcast app. Download or open the free iHeartRadio app and tap podcast to start exploring.
iHeartRadio.
Summer's over. You ready to fall in love? Wednesday, MTV's taking a cast of 22 gorgeous but unlucky singles, giving them a mansion in New Orleans and setting them loose on a mission to find their perfect match. I'm talking about the new season of
Jeff,
Are
so
You the One? It's the ultimate match game.
30 seconds.
Cheap, but love is worth $1 million. When these strangers gamble with their hearts, the stakes are sky high. You cannot miss an all-new season of Are You the One? Wednesday, 10/9 Central on MTV.
While many rose up to
Turn
fight,
I'll be right back out.
he sat down
I looked it
for
up last
peace.
night. I'm like,
Mahatma Gandhi reached out with the strength he cultivated within his soul. Soul.
All right, coming back.
From the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
No, you don't have to have faith. Dave, are you trying to play like a mind trick on me and Jeff and Clyde and the listeners, and maybe on yourself? Are you trying to do that?
know it.
I think he
It's
is.
just positive reinforcement, that's all.
I like it, Dave.
I'm good. I'm good.
It's a manic Monday in New Orleans.
Exactly. Let's hear from Sean Payton. A couple sound bites here, and I was telling Jeff before the show, some of these sound bites, a certain question's asked, and he goes off on a severe misdirection, so just bear with me. I'll just read you the question, and wherever he goes with it, he just goes with it. Let's hear Sean Payton's reaction on how open the New England Patriots wide receivers were in this game.
Listen, it's a good offense. We've got to get better, and not just on defense. Like I said, we've got to be better offensively. Clearly, we're not playing a complimentary game. We're not turning the ball over, but we're not creating any turnovers either. Obviously, we didn't do enough good things today to give us a chance.
Here's Sean Payton on 2 weeks of offense and not having Willie Snead in the lineup.
It's a good question. I don't know if it's one specific player. It's week 2. I don't know what the third down numbers were today, but we got to find ways to stay on the field, and especially when you're playing a team that's keeping your defense on the field. And that's something. We didn't run the ball well enough, honestly, today. We didn't run the ball. We attempted to a number of times, but we had 3 penalties in the front. Those are going to be drive killers. You get a holding, 2 holdings, hands to the face. It's tough to overcome those when you get one of those calls.
Jeff, I think Sean Payton knows there are so many issues that he can't keep it all under control. If you ask him about one, he's like, well, that's an issue, and then this is an issue, and then this is an issue, and I think he's just so flabbergasted that he's just going off on and just telling you everything that's wrong. He can't help it.
Yeah, he's basically saying that's not the only thing, and he's talked about this in the past. Everyone wants to make it simple. Is it this coach? Is it this player? Is it this one aspect of the game? And it's never that simple, and that's what he's getting at in that these are widespread issues, and there's a host of problems that all fit together and kind of affect each other. The Saints' offensive line issues, their injuries, force them to move some guys around. You got guys playing out of position. They're getting beat. They're getting holding calls, illegal hands, and that's blowing up the offense and putting them behind the chains. And then it looks like the offense isn't efficient, but it's because of all these other things that are going on. And they're scoring points. They're not scoring touchdowns right now because they don't have Willie Snead is one reason. And people are bracketing Mike Thomas when they get to into the red zone, and they're forcing the Saints to go to other guys, and they're not stepping up right now.
Now, what Michael Thomas told me in the locker room, a few of us talked with him, and then afterward he kind of made sure to keep me back for just a minute, and just to say, I'm essentially being taken out, and obviously the Saints have not found ways to overcome it. He has been taken out. He said, look, there are 2-3 people around him. Teams are all in on him and trying to force Drew to beat them with everyone else and not getting done. Just not happening.
And he did do that when he went to Brandon Coleman. They ran that rub route on the left side and got a nice touchdown there, and he went the other way, away from the bracket, got man-to-man coverage. And it was the exact same play that the Patriots used against the Saints. I think Chris Hogan scored on a rub route. That's a very common tactic in the NFL against man-to-man defense. So the Saints just haven't done enough of it. They haven't been winning those one-on-one battles. And I think that really is, if I had to say the one thing that I heard from the players in the locker room, it's that. They're just getting beat by better players. They're getting beat one-on-one, either on the line by the pass rush or in blocking or outside on the perimeter in pass coverage. I mean, that's really basically what it gets down to, and it's not surprising because they played 2 of the better teams in the league, and I don't think the Saints are there yet.
Let's get a quick call before we head to our top of the hour break. Corey on a cell. Thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got, Corey?
How's it going, guys?
Hey, we're okay. Surviving?
Yeah, I'm okay too. I worked the game yesterday, made some money, so it was worth being there for me. But you guys have been covering the team for years, and this has got to be something that you're seeing. I know everybody else is seeing it, but the fact that receivers run constantly open in our secondary, and this has been a problem since we got rid of Greg Williams. It happened a little bit when Greg Williams was here, but not as frequent as it has been since he's been gone. I mean, it's been through 3 defensive coordinators now: Rob Ryan, Spagnuolo, Rob Ryan, and Dennis Allen, and we just can't seem to fix that problem. And that's one of the biggest things, is that we just allow guys to run open, or we have miscommunications or breakdowns in coverage. And I just don't understand what the problem is, because we've changed 3 coaches, we've changed the host of players, and the problems are still happening.
Hey, Corey, appreciate the phone call, and that is a rightful gripe. There's no doubt.
Spot on, and I wish I knew the answer, Corey. I mean, there was a play yesterday Tom Brady threw downfield where he just threw it up, and he knew his receiver would get to it because there was no one around him.
And Gronk stepped over Marcus Williams like it was AI versus Tyronn Lue, so that ought to be fun. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Bet you didn't know this. Broadcast radio reaches more people in America than TV.
Something.
AM, FM radio.
Like, oh,
radio that's free in your car, your kitchen, your office. Broadcast radio reaches more adults, teens, and millennials. More shoppers. Broadcast radio reaches 93% of Americans every week. That's bigger than TV, Facebook, and Google. If you're a marketer who needs to reach new fans, visit iHeartMedia.com for the one place everyone is listening.
iHeartRadio. All your favorite music. All your favorite stations. All free. Need a break from the world? Open the iHeartRadio app. Pick a song, a playlist, an artist, or even a podcast, and immerse yourself in your own personal getaway space. Sometimes you just need to tune out the world. So tune in to iHeartRadio. Download or open the free iHeartRadio app today. WODT, WNOE, FM, HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280.
This is an SEC thing, actually. And I'm talking.
Fox Sports trending now.
Starting with news from the NBA, center Mason Plumlee will return to the Denver Nuggets on a 3-year, $41 million deal. And opening arguments begin today in the trial of NBA players Marcus and Markieff Morris. The brothers face felony assault charges stemming from a January 2015 beating of a man outside a Phoenix Recreation Center. Each Morris could face up to 4 years in prison if found guilty, not to mention discipline from the NBA. 2 other co-defendants pleaded guilty last Wednesday to the same charges. NFL news, the status of Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski will be updated today. He scored a touchdown in New England's win over the Saints Sunday, but left the game in the second half with a groin injury. Panthers tight end Greg Olsen will miss several games with a broken foot. Ravens O-lineman Marshall Yanda will miss the rest of the season with a fractured ankle. And Vikings quarterback Sam Bradford still day-to-day after missing Sunday's game with a knee injury. I'm Deb Carson.
iHeartRadio. All your favorite music. All your favorite stations. All free. Need a break from the world? Open the iHeartRadio app. Pick a song, a playlist, an artist, or even a podcast, and immerse yourself in your own personal getaway space. Sometimes you just need to tune out the world. So tune in to iHeartRadio. Download or open the free iHeartRadio app today.
Morning, officer.
Hi there. Why are you
Sitting under the levee under the Hellbox Bridge in downtown Luling at 4 in the morning for the opening of the Alligator Festival. It's the best party ever.
Alligator Festival? That's not until
Friday, September 22nd. Yeah. Music, rides, crafts, mouthwatering Cajun dishes, and live alligators. The Alligator Fest is fun for the whole family, with music from the best bands around, like Category 6, The Strays, Christian Surpass, and Ghost Town, and more.
Well, they are good.
I'd sing a few lines, but
Move along, sir.
Bring the whole family to the Alligator Festival. Baby alligators, the arts and crafts mall, Cajun cuisine, carnival rides, and live music, all for just $1. Visit alligatorfestival.org. The Alligator Festival.
Yeah.
Did you know that creating
no
a realistic
really
budget
about,
is one of the first steps out of the foreclosure process? I'm John O'Brien, the founder and CEO of Operation Hope. Let one of our HUD-certified counselors walk you through the process of helping you save your home. For 20 years and 2 million customers and clients, we've helped people help themselves. Go to our Mortgage Hope Crisis Hotline, online at operationhope.org, or call one of our counselors at 888-388-HOPE. That's 888-388-4673.
I was 11 years old at my first national championships. I fell, I don't know how many times.
Michelle is the most decorated figure skater in U.S. history.
But I had a dream. My dream came true because I dedicated myself.
Dedication made Michelle Kwana champion.
I was passionate.
You want to take a picture of it and send it to him. I'm not even joking.
Whatever your dream goals are, they can come true.
Seriously, take a picture and send it to him. Maybe he can help us. And maybe he can like circle it
Think
and
data
send it back
breaches
to
only
you.
affect companies? Think again. It could be your data being sold on the dark web. See if you're at risk with a free dark web email scan only
Maybe
from
I'll just
Experian.
stay behind.
It costs nothing and it could help
I
you
won't
keep
lean
your
on the
identity yours. Start now for free at Experian.com/scan.
Well, stop doing that.
In South Louisiana,
it's like
we
every
know
day I
more
do
than
something
most
different.
about hurricane recovery. 12 years ago, support came in from across the globe after Katrina ravaged our area.
We did.
Total strangers put their lives on hold for months to lend a hand, and many more donated money and supplies to the relief effort.
I think what we'll do is I'll try to we'll go through Peyton. Got 2 more Peyton sound bites, 3 Cam Jordan sound bites.
Find out how you can help.
And
Go to UnitedWay.org. A message from Sports 1280 Communities, helping to make a difference in New Orleans.
Guys don't really talk about antiperspirant. Despite
That's
that,
the way it's gonna be with us.
91% of Dove Men Plus
people are
Care
gonna wanna
users
talk
recommend
Saints.
it. Here's what they said.
It blocks the.
On our show, people don't want to talk
I think
about
it's a
Saints.
fancy word.
And
comfortable.
And because of what me and you do.
Smells nice.
And
I
it
go
just
like
happened,
smell.
but it's like what me and you do. And
I don't know. It's hard. I think it's quite masculine.
I agree.
That's kind of why I'm like.
All right, 1 minute.
Okay, I gear it.
Kind of like the Hoover Dam from our armpits, I guess.
Dove Men Plus Care antiperspirant. Tough on sweat, not on skin.
You think everyone's watching that show with the girl and the dragons and the game and the throne. But just
Oh,
like
we're gonna
the
bring
show,
it all-
that's
I mean, it'll be
fantasy.
all brought up.
More people in America
we're-
listen to the radio than watch that throne show.
We are gonna
it's
be-
true.
because we only
radio
got
reaches
2 hours,
93% of
we
Americans
will
each
be
week.
more
That's more than
local
TV, Facebook, and Google.
than
Put
probably
that in your
anybody.
dragon and smoke it. Radio
But
reaches
that's
more
what
adults, teens,
our
and even
audience, I
millennials.
feel like
So if
that's
you're
what
a
they want to
marketer, get the most out of your marketing dollar. Talk to the folks who dethrone TV. Go to
If we had a 4-hour show, we'd
iHeartMedia.com for the
probably
one
be
place
trouble.
to reach everybody. AM/FM radio.
If you need a payday loan fast, try LendUp.com. Apply online in minutes on your phone, and you could have cash in your account fast.
Yeah, it was.
LendUp.com is the better payday loan with no hidden fees, and good credit is not required. Visit LendUp.com.
All right, 10 seconds.
It's Credit Services Organization, not a direct lender in Ohio and Texas, subject to availability in your state. LendUp. The better way to borrow.
Hour number 2, Dunc and Holder, Monday, September 18th. And Jeff, I don't think the callers have made any of our listeners feel any better about the Saints. I think they get it. I think a lot of people get it at this point. That it doesn't matter that it's the Vikings and it's the Patriots. 2 pretty good teams, even though, look, yesterday, Minnesota, their defense couldn't stop the Steelers, but they sure as heck slowed down the Saints, and they didn't have Sam Bradford, so they obviously didn't have the offense, but that defense came back down to earth against the Steelers. So what's up with the Saints? And then the Patriots, their defense isn't as good as they've been in the past. They give up 42 to Kansas City, and the Saints put up, 20? And really, in both of those games, the Saints put up 14 points, 7 each in the final quarter in garbage time. So both scores were closer than they actually appeared.
No doubt about it. And I think our callers are largely been, I hate to sound like I'm kissing up to the callers, but I'm trying to be honest here, have some very good observations, very good points. This is football country. People are into football here more than anywhere else in the country, and they know good football when they see it, and they know bad football. And what they're seeing, the product at LSU on Saturday night in Starkville, and the Saints yesterday at the Superdome, isn't good enough for the number of the amount of resources being invested. Look, you have a bad game here or there. I tend to give a pass to Coach O and LSU right now, because that's the first game I can think of where they lost a game that they were expected to win or expected to at least probably win. So this will be a challenge for Ed Orgeron, his staff, to get the team back together after that disappointing loss. The Saints' issues, on the other hand, have been systemic and chronic.
Absolutely. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to stick with the Saints one more segment. We're going to switch over to LSU in the next segment because, look, obviously that loss was tough, and it's 2 days removed, and I know a lot of our listeners would like to hear our thoughts on that as well. But, of course, we know Saints drives the conversation, especially New Orleans, and especially since Jeff and I have covered the team for me over a decade, you closer to 2, so we've got some, knowledge. We've seen it all at this rate, and so
good and the bad, right, and the ugly.
We've seen good, bad, ugly. There's no doubt, absolutely. So why don't we hear what Sean Payton had to say? We played some sound bites from him earlier in the show, and we'll play a couple more here, and then we'll switch it over to Cam Jordan. Let's hear from Sean Payton first. Let's hear about the lack of a consistent pass rush on Tom Brady in yesterday's loss.
Look, the ball comes out quick with Tom. I mean, and it has week to week when you watch him play. There's a rhythm to his game. Ultimately, you have to disrupt the passing game, either pressuring the quarterback or bumping at the line of scrimmage the eligible receivers. There was a handful of big plays where he had too much time.
And I felt like Cam Jordan was out there alone for much of the game. And even former Saints defensive end Bobby McCray liked the tweet I had when I said that, because he watches and he obviously feels the same way, that Cam Jordan is a one-man guy out there and he's not getting much help, and it shows, honestly.
Yeah, there were times when Brady had a lot of time. There were times where he beat the pressure because he's so smart. He sees the pressure where it's coming from, anticipates it. I think the problem is the coordination between the back end and front end. There were times where Brady just threw it up. He had confidence in his receivers or in Gronkowski to make the play once the ball was in the air, and the Saints defensive backs were never in a position to make a play. I don't know how many PBUs they had. There weren't very many. Lattimore had one I know of. There was one in the end zone.
I think P.J. Williams had one.
P.J. Williams had a bad game. He's not played well in either game so far. And the Saints were counting on him. This is a guy who's a third-round draft pick who's seen some time on the field, and he's having a lot of these communication issues. That touchdown that they used the rub route on, he and Marshawn Lattimore did not communicate. Their technique was off on that rub route. It's got to be better. It's just got to be better.
I hear you. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's hear from what Sean Payton had to say to his team, the message to his team, and then we'll get back to the phone line. So here's Sean Payton's message to the team after the Patriots lost yesterday.
Listen, we just finished talking about the sprint here that we're in to improve each week. Obviously, you start off like this and there's disappointment, and yet, we've got the right type of locker room, but we're going to have to respond quickly. We play Carolina and then, go on the road for another week. So, we'll find out a little bit about what we're made of.
504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's go to Steven in Gonzales. Steven, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got, Steven?
Hi, good morning. I'm a first-time caller.
All right, we like it.
And my question to both of y'all is, y'all know more than I do, but it looks like to me the Saints that the lack of talent evaluation, their last 4 or 5 draft classes haven't gone well. So I say it's, besides all the things you mentioned that are wrong. In other words, what was the difference when Sean Payton came here in 2006 and everything got turned around and really more, less time than we expected? What is going on now? Who is actually making the picks?
Hey, Steven, appreciate the phone call. We've seen some turnover there. Look, when in 2006, you had Mickey Loomis and you had, who was here? Russ Ball and Randy Mueller and
Rick Mueller.
Randy Mueller, of course, was before Mickey Loomis.
Rick Riperish.
Yep. And Ryan Pace was just getting started, and he was working his way up through the ranks. And as they got better, Ryan Pace elevated himself through the ranks, and now we know he's the GM for the Bears. But so that's kind of behind the scenes there, and we've seen certainly some turnover throughout the years. And Jeff, I feel like the Saints, they're having to play catch-up for a bunch of bad years as far as free agent misses, draft misses, and I feel like they've gotten better. Even through these results, I feel like the personnel they've picked in free agency and in the draft has gotten better, but they're so far behind. People have passed them, and they're not catching up at this rate.
Yeah, and one of the issues that I've seen in the past, it's not so much the talent, it's how the talent is being developed and utilized. A good example would be Malcolm Jenkins. I know a lot of people feel like he didn't play that well here. He's playing obviously very well in Philadelphia. Well, why is that? Why didn't he play well here? He's clearly a talented player. He was a first-round draft pick. Had some moments where he did shine here. Akeem Hicks, another player. Everybody says he didn't play that well here. I understand why they traded him. Now he's signing a $12 million a year contract and is one of the leaders on the Chicago Bears defense. Why is that? Why are these players playing better once they leave New Orleans? I think there's something to be said for that. Either they're not properly identifying the strengths of these players, not utilizing it, developing it, or the vision is off. And we hear that all the time with Sean Payton on the offensive side of the ball. He has a particular vision for a player and knows how to get the strengths of that player and utilize it and exploit the strengths, cover up their weaknesses. I haven't seen that same level of production and efficiency on defense. In fact, it's been the exact opposite. That's, to me, the number one issue since Greg Williams left this team, is getting the production out of these defensive players. I don't think it's necessarily always talent, because I think some of these guys have gone on and played pretty well at other teams.
Hit the phone lines. Steve in Sacramento, I'm assuming, on the iHeart Radio app. Steve, thanks for calling the show. What you got?
Hey, welcome, guys. Thank you. I have a question with Davante Harris still being on the field. He seems to be still having lapses or a bunch of misses. Also, at this point, I think Vaccaro is probably more of a Mark Barron player, where he's a linebacker-ish going forward and rushing the passer. But we have to get better, and I don't think Von Bell is the answer either as to the second safety. I think Marcus Williams will develop, and maybe we need to run Bush and have Vaccaro as a rover. And then where is Muhammad?
Hey, Steve, appreciate the questions and the comments. And, look, I think he's pretty spot on some of his assessments, especially, look, Davante Harris, he did not play as much as he did in week one. Sterling Moore was in there, but it's not like with Sterling Moore was in there, he overly impressed me either. But yeah, Davante Harris has kind of been the poster child of the problems. But the expectation level with us and probably with the Saints shouldn't be that high. I mean, there's a reason why he had to scratch and claw to make the roster again, and it's if everything was equal and everyone was healthy, Davante Harris wouldn't be seeing the field. I mean, let's be honest.
It is interesting that King Crawley is a guy that we thought was probably ahead of Harris at one point in camp, and he's been inactive. He can't get on the field, and Harris is, in his snaps, is really struggling. And that's going to happen when you play against a quarterback like Tom Brady. He's going to go right at you. You can almost see him as soon as he saw Harris in man-to-man coverage. He went right after that and exploited that coverage. And he's being thrust out too soon in his career, I think, he's going to have ups and downs. So I don't think we should expect more from Davante Harris at this stage of his career against a team like the New England Patriots.
Let's take one more call, and then we got to take a break right here on the show. Let's go to Kevin on the West Bank. Kevin, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Hey, guys. We could sit here for 3 weeks and point fingers, and because it goes from the top to the bottom.
We will for the next 15. Don't worry. We will.
But to me, what I don't think gets enough attention is offensively. We're going to sit here and talk about the defense. Offensively, there's no imagination. There's no nothing. People forget our offense used to put pressure on other teams' offense. We don't have that anymore. So we can't make another team's offense one-dimensional. Our offense used to mask our defense being so bad. Our defense has always been bad. This isn't something new for the Saints. It's always been that way. But the offense just is not putting pressure on any of the teams. They go on 3 and out. And like I always say, if I could sit in section 614 and tell you what play's coming next, you don't think the people that get paid to do this know what's coming next? I could sit there and almost tell you exactly what play is coming next, and it happens over and over and over again.
Hey, Kevin, appreciate the phone call. I think you're exactly right there, too, as far as the offense isn't getting enough, let's say, poor spotlight because, A, I think the Saints don't have the same sort of talent around Drew Brees. Obviously, you're missing Willie Snead. I don't think there's any question about that. Michael Thomas has no problem saying, hey, I'm being bracketed and taken out, and they're not being able to overcome that. And the whole dilemma at running back and the offensive line, it's all of it. And it's made Drew Brees less accurate and less comfortable at quarterback than we've seen, especially to open a season. It's probably the less comfortable I've seen him in the first 2 games of a season.
Yeah, they seem out of sync a little bit, and that's going to happen. Look, you trade Brandon Cooks, who's a very capable receiver in this league, and then you lose Willie Snead. That's 2 of your top 3 receivers from a year ago. And the offensive line issues we've talked about. You start any team in the league that loses its top starting 2 tackles is going to struggle. It all starts up front. So all these things kind of manifest themselves in different ways, and they're not scoring touchdowns. And that's really what it gets down to. Their first 7 drives yesterday, they got down in New England territory on 6 of them and either settled for field goals or turned it over on downs 4 times of those 6 trips into the New England territory. That's not good enough.
All right, I lied. I want to hear what Cam Jordan had to say because he had some poignant comments after the game. So next segment, we'll hear from Cam Jordan. Then after that, we'll talk a little LSU, and we'll keep taking your phone calls. This is your show on a Monday. We want to hear what you have to say. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Hey, it's Clay Travis of Outkick the Coverage. On the show, we'll react to all the biggest headlines. If news breaks early, we've got you covered. Plus, the most dangerous and non-PC Bravani sports talk radio.
Mornings 5 to 8, Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Our sold-out 2017 iHeartRadio Music Festival hosted by Ryan Seacrest. iHeartRadio. 2 nights, 1 stage. This weekend at T-Mobile Arena in
All right, 2 minutes.
Watch it live on CWTV.com or the CW app at 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday. And for the first time ever, watch our Daytime Village starting at 1 p.m. Saturday.
Capital One is the proud marquee partner of the iHeartRadio Music Festival. For more information on Capital One products and services, please visit CapitalOne.com today.
Sports 1280, New Orleans. Instant replay. Chris Gordy. Mornings 8 to 10.
He is Coach Rick Venturi jumping on with us right now on Sports 1280. Coach, that playoff game against the Rams, I mean, take me back to that game.
No, people don't realize this, but that was one of the greatest offenses in the history of the game. To me, in my years coaching, that greatest show on turf was the toughest. I use the term ambient now to describe a player who's great and gives me headaches and won't let me sleep at night. Well, that was the most ambient offense that I ever faced. And then, of course, Akeem from the Rams dropped the ball. We recovered it. And I think the relief, I don't know that I've ever been, I don't even know if I was happy at that moment. They've got a picture with me and Tom Benson. I've got it on my wall here in Indianapolis. And it was after that game, and I look like I'm comatose.
Listen live weekdays on Sports 1280 and the free iHeartRadio app, or catch up at sports1280.com.
iHeartRadio. All your favorite music. All your favorite stations. All free. Need a break from the world? Open the iHeartRadio app. Pick a song, a playlist, an artist, or even a podcast, and immerse yourself in your own personal getaway space. Sometimes you just need to tune out the world. So tune in to iHeartRadio. Download or open the free iHeartRadio app today.
All right, coming back.
Okay.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Plenty of conversation with callers already. We will continue that through the show if you want to get involved. But first, let's hear from Cam Jordan, who has been through plenty more downs than ups in his Saints career. And Cam Jordan is, to me, the only consistent player I've seen on defense through 2 games. We saw Alex Anzalone play pretty well in Minnesota, and A.J. Klein, too, as well. And we also saw Marshawn Lattimore play pretty well against New England, but Cam Jordan's the only consistent guy I've seen, and you could tell Cam is becoming, I would say, frustrated with what's going on, and you can't blame the guy. I mean, he is a Pro Bowl player. We've talked about him a ton, Jeff. You've said this should be a breakout year for him, but if he's by himself, he's not going to be breaking out because people can just pay attention to him and let everyone else beat him, and not everyone else is going to beat him.
Yeah, they were chipping him yesterday using tight ends and backs to help out, and he was trying and was actually getting a lot of pressure. He just wasn't getting there, and that's really, I think, a hat tip to Tom Brady. I think he knows where the pressure's coming from, stepped up a bunch of times and avoided the pressure. Just an experienced quarterback, whereas we saw in the preseason, and everybody got fooled by that stuff in the preseason, and I don't know how many times we had to tell you, don't get fooled by that. Al-Qadim Muhammad is rushing against guys that aren't even going to be in the NFL, and he's getting a sack in the fourth quarter of a preseason game. It's meaningless. Yes, he might have some talent and potential, but he's not going to do that against Nate Solder and guys like that in the NFL. So it really is fool's gold, that pressure that the Saints were putting on people in the preseason.
And my premise to my column yesterday was that at first I even told Jeff, we discussed what we're going to write during the game, after the game. And at first I was just going to focus in on the defense, and I said, no, it's everything. So that's why I wrote it's everything. And I think Kevin in the West Bank even alluded to, look, offense has not been what it is. And so I went around and was asking players basically, it's not just one thing. A lot of times we, in the media, point, it's defense, it's this, it's, you point to one aspect. It's all of it. Look, I asked Cam Jordan about what his thoughts were, how there have been struggles on both sides of the football.
I can only focus on me. I can only focus on my defensive line and my defense. And we all know the offense, if they are struggling, they will get right. At the end of the day, it's on our defense not to allow 30 points being scored in the first half. That's something that I'm almost embarrassed about. Again, with pass, with coverage, everything that goes hand in hand, we got to get better on our side of the ball.
And Cam, how concerned are you at this point, Saints being 0-2?
I can only focus on me. I can only focus on my defensive line and my defense. And we all know the offense.
Whoopsie.
If they are struggling, they will get right. At the end of the day, it's on our defense not to allow.
Never mind, Sarge. It's the wrong cut.
Hey, we just heard from Cam. Well, let's try it again, Dave. You get it.
Hold on. It's the wrong cut.
Oh, okay. Well, I can tell you this. Cam basically said, we gave up 30 points in the first half. I'm super concerned. And it was quite apparent that, look, you know what's going on, and you can't stop it. That's the way it's been for this team.
Well, yeah, they know. I mean, how many times we've been in the locker room and you ask why things are happening, and instead the answer you get is telling you what you just saw. Yeah, we saw that Tom Brady got hurt early, and you didn't stop him. Why is that happening? And they don't have answers. They don't have the answers to it. They can tell you exactly the formula for winning in the league. Don't turn it over. Eliminate explosive plays. Score touchdowns in the red zone instead of field goals. We've heard all that. They're not doing it, and that just speaks to the fact that they're not good enough.
Exactly. Well, let's see if we can hear from Cam here on how can this thing turn around in a hurry.
Again, it has to be an open line of communication. This upcoming week is really going to be a defining week for us. We're going into Carolina. We all know that what the Carolina offense brings, and they're pretty much set on gash plays, and that's something that we've been weak at. That's something we've got to bounce back from, I'm sure. When they watch the tape, they'll see some things. But again, we have to get better every week. We got to tweak some things, and again, it starts up front. We got to get back. We got to get to the quarterback. We got to make him not even uncomfortable. We got to hit him. We got to make him take him out of being a factor from the game. So we got our work cut out for us this next week.
Jeff, I stepped away from the scrum by Cam Jordan, but you followed up.
Well, basically, he and the leaders on the team know that it's week 3. They've got to scratch out a win some way, somehow, some way, to keep the locker room believing, to keep the confidence up of these young players. We mentioned all the young guys on defense. And what he means by, I think, defining week is players like him, Drew Brees, Zach Strief at offensive tackle, the leaders, Max Unger, are going to have to take these younger players under their belt, under the wing, go into film study, correct the mistakes, and see how quickly they can improve and eliminate all these errors that are costing them the chance to win games. They're not even they don't even have a chance to win these games. They've got to at least be able to be in games in the fourth quarter. And Sean Payton talks about the sprint to improve. That's not just the coaching staff working on that. That's the leaders in each position group. They have to get in there and get in film study and try to correct these issues that are happening to the Saints, frankly, between the ears as much as between the lines on the field. The Saints are almost as much of their own worst enemy right now as their opponent. Until they can correct those internal self-inflicted wounds, they're not going to have a chance to win on Sundays. And if the schedule doesn't get a whole lot easier, yeah, you're playing Carolina that obviously isn't the same efficient offense as New England. But then you got to go to London to play on the road. So you're playing basically the next 2 weeks on the road. Then you get Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers back-to-back after that.
Jeff, you didn't make anyone feel better just now. I don't know if you're trying to, but you didn't.
Well, I think they've got to just somehow get a win or two in this 6-game stretch. It's what I wrote about Sunday. Realistically, you knew they weren't going to start that well against this early schedule, but if they could somehow get to 2-4 after 6 games, maybe you beat Carolina this week, or you win in London against Miami. You can beat Detroit at home somehow. If you can get 2 wins out of there, I think you can salvage the season. But you can't go 1-5. You can't go 0-6. There's no hope. There's no recovery from that.
And the fact that Sean Payton basically said, yeah, you got to do these things, and that for the Saints to even have a chance to winning, and they didn't do that. And like they didn't even give themselves a chance. Sean Payton even said that after the game. And 2 weeks in a row, it's becoming people are fed up, and I understand it, and I agree. Pete, you should be fed up. This is enough. It's enough.
I think this weekend at Carolina, you know what kind of game it's going to be. You're very familiar with them. It's not going to be the wide-open shootout that you had yesterday in the Superdome. It's going to be a slugfest. Carolina's got one of the best defenses in the league. They've only allowed 6 points in 2 games. So you're going to have to win a slugfest, run the ball, try and win on a field goal in the fourth quarter.
And hope Christian McCaffrey doesn't do Christian McCaffrey things. Then Saints fans would have said, hey, that's why I wanted Christian McCaffrey. Get him. Well, we'll see what happens.
Right, it's going to be a different kind of game on Sunday.
No doubt about it. Let's switch gears when we come back. Talk LSU Mississippi State. A brutal loss, and one that obviously has LSU fans questioning what kind of team this is. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Well, I don't make mistakes often, but apparently I had the same struggles on both sides cuts. And I just had how concerned is Cam, but it was still the other same cut.
Yeah. Once you told me, I'm like, okay. Yeah.
Rain chances.
Buddy.
Look, you might have teased incorrectly. We have Tyler in North Dakota, and then we have a Billy in New Orleans.
Beautiful.
All right,
we're never gonna get to LSU.
We're
never gonna get to LSU.
Salvation
LSU?
Right.
Be here to help.
Tyler, North Dakota, and who?
Is there a need?
Billy in New Orleans. I'm texting it to you right now.
All right. I got it. I wrote it down. I'm good. I got it.
1-800-SAL-ARMY.
Too late. I already sent it.
I won.
Take the text, damn it. Take it.
Always suggesting something looks really good on you, and you think it's...
Shoot, man, we already had 14 calls, 15 calls.
Yeah, that's about what we had last week, too.
Yeah.
Imagine the idea...
But we got a bunch of new people, though. That's the good part.
Dude, we do have a bunch of new people.
Oh, crap. Billy hung up.
All right. Well, Tyler.
I only have Tyler right now.
All right.
Pinching, pulling, and restricting. And trust me, they love the way it looks on you.
Starting to make it.
I'm curious how people are finding the show, like, in North Dakota. I mean, unless they're just a Saints fan somehow.
I think that's what it is. If they follow NOLA, they'll be like, oh, yeah, they do a show. And so they just either listen through that or the iHeart app. Or...
Yeah.
Gotta be, yeah.
You to do the same. Every corner of Louisiana has something to offer. From the world-class fishing at Toledo Bend to paddling at Fountainwood to exploring the ancient mounds of Poverty Point World Heritage Site.
Oh, well, they,
so
yeah,
fill
I
up
guess,
your car
well, I guess Mondays they better.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Louisiana.
We interrupt your broadcast to bring you this, a phenomenon from Wendy's that can only be described as a giant junior bacon cheeseburger. A delicious anomaly doubling the size and taste of Wendy's iconic junior bacon cheeseburger. Double the bacon, double the cheese, and good heavens, double the fresh, never frozen beef. And what's this? A Wendy's giant junior bacon cheeseburger with nuggets, fries, and a drink for just $5. Run to your nearest Wendy's.
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Meal includes small fries and a drink. Not valid in Alaska and Hawaii. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
Your home for home team talk. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
I shouldn't make promises that I might not be able to keep on a Monday show on Dunc and Holder. Look, Saints lose, it's wildfire. We promise you to get your reactions in, so we're just going to keep doing it. So we'll get to Ed Orgeron and LSU and the loss against Mississippi State when we can. Let's go to the phone lines. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Tyler in North Dakota. Again, I assume, iHeart Radio app. What's up, Tyler?
Big time. We got to get off the field on third down. Sloppy team. Horrible.
Yeah.
Bad weekend for Saints and LSU.
Yeah, hey, Tyler, I would agree. Yeah, appreciate the phone call. Look, the third down issues have become problems on offense and become problems on defense. They were 4 of 12 yesterday on offense. In Minnesota, the Saints offense was 4 of 11, so they can't get on. They can't stay on the field on third down. And then in Minnesota, they were 9 of 14 on third down. The Patriots were 6 of 12 on third down, but they opened the game 5 for 5, and that blew the doors open. And then the end. Good talk.
Yeah, that's the money down in the NFL. Every NFL team and their staff spend inordinate amount of times trying to win third down. Saints work on it constantly, and it's called situational football, obviously. And the Saints have not been good at all in any situational aspect of the game. In the red zone, they've not been very good. Goal line, short yardage, all these different situations that they work on constantly. They're kind of failing at.
Let's hit the phone lines again. Bob. I didn't catch where he's from. We'll just say
West Bank.
Bob from the West Bank. Thanks, Dave. Bob, appreciate the phone call. What you got, Bob?
Hey, I at the beginning of the season, I told my friends, I said 7-9, 8-8 at the best. I said at the end of the season, Drew Brees is going to sign somewhere for anywhere between 27 to 30 million because you don't pay that much to a quarterback for a 500 or less than 500 team. Secondly, Sean Payton's gone and Mickey Lomas is gone. That they have to rebuild. They cannot keep Drew Brees for a season at that 27 to 30 million dollars a year. And they screwed up at the draft. They took Lattimore, and there was a very aggressive defensive end available, Taco Charlton. By the way, he signed with Dallas and he's playing for him.
I would say that Derek Barnett might be pretty good with the Saints too. But look, I was on the Derek Barnett train forever. But yeah, Bob, appreciate the phone call. Jeff, we're gonna have to get used to hearing that everyone wants, well, many people want a clean slate. You can't totally discard them. I mean, what do you do? I mean, it's going to be a rough year, my friend. I just get the sense it's going to be a rough season.
Look, we're 2 games in. Let's see how it plays out before we start calling for heads. I don't think right now the signs look good. The team hasn't been competitive, but we are 2 games in. And A.J. Klein pointed out when he played in Carolina, they started 1-4, and they ended up winning, I think, 10 straight games and recovered. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's still early, and I know the signs are there that we've seen in the past, but this team does have some key players scheduled to come back in the next few weeks. They just got to somehow survive this early slate.
Let's switch gears. LSU goes up to Stark Vegas and comes home as if they basically didn't play a game. I mean, they looked like a team we did not anticipate at all. They lose 37-7 up in Starkville, and it was not even close. That game, I'm sure, has some LSU fans, of course, irrational LSU fans, screaming that Ed Orgeron should be out, he should have never been hired, da-da-da. Now, some people probably feel like he shouldn't have been hired in the first place, and I get where that's coming from. But, Jeff, it's either LSU's not as good as we thought they were, BYU and Chattanooga showed us nothing because both of those teams were not as good as we thought they were, especially BYU. Look, they lost to Wisconsin at home. What was it, 40-6?
Yes.
BYU stinks, so that was not a barometer game. And maybe Mississippi State's better than we thought. I'm not sure, but all I know is LSU, like you said, has some soul searching to do after that game.
I was shocked at LSU's defense's struggles to defend the option attack with Nick Fitzgerald. This basic assignment football, you expect more from Dave Aranda and that defense. I know they've got a lot of young guys the first time they saw that kind of offense, but, boy, they really were undisciplined against it, and it got worse as they got more frustrated, and they were abandoning their assignments, trying to make it. It was a classic case of a bunch of young defenders going against a veteran quarterback in Nick Fitzgerald, who he made the right read almost every time in that mesh point, handing off to the back or keeping it. And they were defenseless against it, and it wore LSU down. That's what that offense does.
Yeah, absolutely. And the penalties were all over the map. Look, 9 penalties for 112 yards. You get 2 defenders ejected for targeting, and you could argue the rule stinks, but they certainly committed the penalties. They were helmet to helmet. Those were the definitions of targeting, if you ask me.
Right. There's no doubt the penalties were killers for LSU. Eliminated a bunch of big plays, and those are just momentum sappers and drive killers. And, I'm almost willing to chalk that one up as let's give them a mulligan because it was so bad that I can't imagine them being able to put a performance out on tape again as that bad. But I think this will be interesting, Larry and Clyde, that this is the first challenge we've seen in the Ed Orgeron tenure. It's been a very brief tenure, but like I said before, everybody thought they'd lose to Alabama. They played Alabama very good a year ago. They lost that home game to Florida. I guess that was the only other game that you could say that he lost that it was expected. I mean, they beat the teams they were expected to beat. They lost to the teams you thought they would lose to. And this Saturday performance came out of nowhere. Now Ed Orgeron, how does he get the team back together? How does he get his staff back together? It's a challenge, the first real challenge of his coaching tenure.
Let's hear from Ed Orgeron after the game, and I'm sure he was shell-shocked, just kind of like the way Sean Payton was shell-shocked his past 2 weeks. But here's Coach O on, did he see this coming through the practice week?
We didn't practice the way we wanted to practice on Tuesday. We were a little worried about it, but we bounced back on Wednesday. We bounced back on Thursday. Obviously, this is the best thing we played all year. We haven't been challenged. Those guys did some things. They schemed us a little bit. They did a good job. Their quarterback played very well. We thought we were going to play very well tonight. We thought it was going to be a battle till the end. We never thought this was coming.
So they didn't see this coming. And there were warning signs, apparently. They said Tuesday's a bad practice. I don't know. You got to get your team ready.
Got a lot of young guys playing, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And again, they weren't prepared, or they had never seen that kind of efficient offense before. And guys making wrong reads, it happens against that offense in a short, and I say a short week, it's a regular week, but they hadn't faced that before. And Nick Fitzgerald's a heady quarterback that's been around the block. He exposed them.
And you can't put it on the defense, though. Look, the offense scored 7 points.
Right.
They were anemic.
And of course in the YouTube chat, Glenn Hebert brings up a fantastic point. And he writes, I know LSU's defense was horrible. I know Mississippi State's quarterback, running back, and wide receivers played lights out. But why was LSU's quote-unquote new offense was MIA? They kept running the ball in first and second down by 17 and more. So, and, we have talked about this in terms of, has Matt Canada shown everything from his offense? Have we seen everything that we need to see? Well, I think there's a lot more questions after this game than I think we could have asked after both BYU and Chattanooga combined, because you're right. There's one thing to say we're going to plug Darius Geis in, we're just going to let him run it, chug him, and it's going to wear him down. That didn't happen. But then where are the sweeps? Where are, the other, where are the big plays? Obviously, State stopped that. And to go along with that very quickly, 3 of State's players were named SEC Players of the Week today, with Nick Fitzgerald being named the Offensive Player of the Week, and then Darrell Williams and Jeffrey Simmons as the Offensive and Defensive Lineman of the Week, respectively.
Dominating performance. I bet you Tom Brady's the AFC Player of the Week. I'm just going to go out on a limb there. 2 for 2, I'm sure the Saints will go. But look, you look offensively. Danny Etling looked sharp his first 2 weeks, 13 of 29, 137 yards. I think some of his receivers didn't help him a couple of times, but still, it was a different Danny Etling.
That touchdown called off killed him.
Yes, absolutely. And that was, if I remember, it was the call kind of shady?
Yes, because it wasn't on Shark. It was on I can see it in my brain, but basically they called offensive pass interference on a play that was away from who Etling eventually ended up throwing to in Shark, who was wide open down the field.
Right, yeah. And I even remember the commentator saying, all right, that call you could argue, all right, that one would go against it, but all the other ones, they were all legitimate calls. What are you going to do? And they crushed LSU. Crushed them.
Looked to me like State decided, Todd Grantham decided they were going to load up against the run, overwhelm that kind of rebuilt young offensive line, and force LSU to beat them on the perimeter, man-to-man coverage, and they couldn't do it. And I think that's a recipe that LSU is going to see in the SEC the rest of the year until they can win outside and Danny Etling can beat them through the air.
I'm curious to see how they rebound. Look, they're playing, Syracuse this week?
Syracuse.
Troy the next, and then Florida. Of course, everyone's circling, they could have been 5-0 going in that game. Well, we assume they'll be 4-1, but in Florida, all of a sudden, they pull out a miracle and beat Tennessee. Total miracle.
Total miracle. And Tennessee had a bunch of those go their way a year ago, so the gridiron gods are shining against them now.
And guys, we talked about this a little bit at the start of the season. We talked about their record, what their record could be, and how they could get to it. One of the biggest things that we talked about early in the season was how, with a road schedule, the likes of going to State, going to Florida, going to Tennessee, going to Alabama, at all, they were going to have to be perfect at home, and they were going to have to get some wins on the road and get lucky with one. They've already lost once now at State. They still have a very, very daunting road schedule ahead of them. State probably could have been the game if they were prepared, the one that they could have gotten out of the way early. But now they've lost that one. Now you got to go to the Swamp. You still got to go to Tuscaloosa. You still got to go to Oxford. And then you got to close the year going to Knoxville with $100,000 with Butch Jones' job on the line. Where does that maybe one luck win come from in that if they didn't play well this week in Starkville?
Well, they got to play better, and I assume they will play better than that. That was just a performance that no one expected, and you have some of those a year. Seems like LSU has one of those performances every year.
Even in their national championship years, they had those.
Yeah, it's just there's that one game, inexplicably, they lay an egg, and everybody's wondering what's going on. Again, it's a challenge to Orgeron, his staff, and the leadership on both sides of the ball among the players.
Let's take one final break here on the show, and we have to, of course, in the last segment, go through our picks. Who did great? Who did not? Tease alert, I still stink. So that's the moral of the story. At least it is picks.
You weren't as bad as the rest of us because it was not a good week for all of us.
Well, hey, don't ever take our advice. We do this for our own entertainment, and it's more about just me being wrong a lot. And that's so rare in life, the fact that I can be so wrong on a weekly basis. Please take advantage of that. Humanity, please take advantage of that. Here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Hey, it's Chris Gordy, and football season is upon us, and that means we've got tons to talk about, like how good can LSU be this year with Ed Orgeron taking over? Will Sean Payton and the Saints snap their 3-year playoff drought? We'll talk about it all on the Chris Gordy Show, weekday mornings 8 to 10 right here on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Think data breaches only affect companies? Think again. It could be your data being sold on the dark web. See if you're at risk with a free dark web email scan only from Experian. It costs nothing and it could help you keep your identity.
Yeah, he didn't have a funny voice when I answered the phone.
I assume he's gonna break one, so I'm just like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll just
more information
lay
on
back.
adoption, visit Adopt.
Yeah, let's just do the picks because we flew through that on Friday, so that. We got about 2.5 minutes in this break. That'll give you a good solid 8 minutes. So,
all right. I mean, it's basically just going over our records and just mocking each other, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Avenue in downtown New Orleans. We've also partnered with Educational Products Incorporated to support the Flood Relief School Supply Drive to replace school supplies lost in the flooding. Go to sports1280.com. A message from Sports 1280 Communities, helping to make a difference in New Orleans.
Guys don't really talk about antiperspirant. Despite that, 91% of Dove Men Plus Care users recommend it. Here's what they said.
It blocks the, perspiration, I think is the fancy word.
It's comfortable. It smells nice. My girl likes the smell.
Well, it's hard. I think it's quite masculine. My underarms aren't the worst thing at the gym. It's kind of like the Hoover Dam from my armpits, I guess.
Dove Men Plus Care antiperspirant. Tough on sweat, not on skin.
Bet you didn't know this. Broadcast radio reaches more people in America than TV. Yeah, AM/FM radio. The radio that's free in your car, your kitchen, your office. Broadcast radio reaches more adults, teens, and millennials. More of everyone. More shoppers. Broadcast radio reaches 93% of Americans every week. That's bigger than TV, Facebook, and Google. If you're a marketer who needs to reach new fans, visit iHeartMedia.com for the one place everyone is listening. AM/FM radio.
We interrupt your broadcast to bring you this, a phenomenon from Wendy's that can only be described as a giant junior bacon cheeseburger. A delicious anomaly doubling the size and taste of Wendy's iconic junior bacon cheeseburger. Double the bacon, double the cheese, and good heavens, double the fresh, never frozen beef. And what's this? A Wendy's giant junior bacon cheeseburger with nuggets, fries, and a drink for just $5. Run to your nearest Wendy's.
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Meal includes small fries and a drink. Not valid in Alaska and Hawaii. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
She didn't just visit the sick and poor. She moved in because they needed help. Mother Teresa couldn't do it all, but she gave her all. Compassion. Pass it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
Morning, officer.
Hi there. Why are you
sitting under the levee under the Hellbox Bridge in downtown Luling at 4 in the morning
Yes.
for the opening of the Alligator Festival? It's the best party ever.
Alligator Festival? That's not until
Friday, September 22nd. Yeah. Music, rides, crafts, mouth-watering Cajun dishes, and live alligators. The Alligator Fest is fun for the whole family, with music from the best bands around like Category 6, The Strays, Christian Surpass, and Ghost Town, and more.
Ooh, they are good.
I'd sing a few lines, but I'd wake the pit.
10 seconds.
Bring the whole family to the Alligator Festival. Baby Alligators, the arts and crafts mall, Cajun cuisine, carnival rides, and live music, all for just $1. Visit alligatorfestival.org. The Alligator Festival.
Dunc and Holder now. Josh Innes next at noon on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
One final segment here on Dunc and Holder, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, SoundCloud, NOLA.com, iTunes, and our YouTube channel. You can catch anything you missed on the show. And, of course, on a Monday, we've had a very active show. So now, to lighten the mood, let's just make me look like an idiot.
That's one way to put it, to lighten the mood after this show.
Let's just make me look like an idiot. So Clyde is, of course, our college pick'em guru.
I am.
Jeff is currently going through the NFL picks. And I at least know I got one NFL pick right, and Jeff got one wrong. I'll just throw that out there.
That seems
somebody thought the Saints would beat the Patriots. I
will say to Jeff's credit, remember, Confederacy of Dunces.
What's that mean?
From that Purple Cowboys. Yes.
Look, was sticking to my guns with the Saints strictly because I felt out of principle I had to. But once the Patriots lost that opener, that reduced my confidence greatly.
Principles can go awry when it has to do with picks against the spread.
I had to stick with it. So
Indeed.
All right, Clyde. College picks.
All right.
Who did what? Who stinks? Who won a lone wolf pick? I have no idea. I don't even remember what I picked. Like, I black out after I make picks because
That's kind of how I am for the NFL ones, because I really don't remember what I picked, and I really, at this point, I'm no longer confident in that. However, I'm confident in this because I'm going to win this.
Because you're going to win this.
Because I'm going to win this. I'm just calling it now. So after this past weekend, our esteemed Jeff Duncan actually had the best weekend of all of us, but it was a very, very slight margin. It was a very, very wacky weekend in college football this weekend. I mean, with UCLA, Memphis being UCLA in the Liberty Bowl, just Texas USC. There was a lot of craziness. But for Jeff went 6-4. I went 5-5. Larry, you went 4-6. Overall records going into week 3, I am 18-12. Jeff is 16-14, and Larry, bringing up the as always, at 13-17.
13-17.
And I'll give you a bone. I've just seen the story go up that LSU is a very big favorite, so something to chomp on at least for the rest of the week.
Oh, no.
LSU has opened up as a 7.5-point favorite against Syracuse.
7.5-point favorite against Syracuse.
An ACC team. 7.5-point favorite. So
they're at home. They're at home.
They're at home though. After what they just saw, shoot.
I'm a hold off.
Yeah, I was like, hold off. I'm just giving you a bone. I'm just letting you now so you can think about it. Let it marinate.
I also blame the fact that I just want to needle Jeff. I mean, that's why I picked Louisville. He, of course, picked Clemson. I was just like, oh, no, I wanted to see Jeff be wrong against his score. And, of course, I'm the idiot.
Yeah, that was not even a contest. That was very Saints Patriots-like. Clemson's very good. I think it's going to be a Clemson-Alabama championship game again, unless Oklahoma
could get in there.
I mean, very sneaky Pac-12 team, Washington.
No, they got there last year, but
no way.
Nah, they're not the same. All right, Jeff, NFL picks.
All right, NFL picks were ugly this week. Actually, Larry and Clyde tied so far for the lead.
Holler.
H at 8-7.
Oh, so I can't have a losing record by the end of the week. Success.
I was 6-9.
I like it.
A distant 6-9. So overall, right now, let me see where we're at. I'm trying to add this up. My math's not good. Looks like Clyde is 16-14.
What?
Larry is 15-15, and I am 13-17.
All right. So I'm doing something right somewhere. Something right.
Yes.
Somewhere.
But there's still a game to be played tonight. The Lions and Giants. And I believe we're different on that, guys. Looks like Larry and I both took the Lions. Clyde took the home team, the Giants.
Ooh, so I could catch Clyde.
Yes.
Keep going, bro.
I mean, this is...
Do we know is Odell Beckham, he's out, right?
We don't know that yet. Odell Beckham, it sounds like he's game time. I've seen different scenarios. So if you're like a fantasy player and you're relying on him, it is a dicey proposition because it seems uncertain at this point.
And our own Herb Ethiopia, I guess we should add this, reporting today that Saints defensive end Mitchell Lavin suffered a high ankle sprain yesterday. We did see him go down in that game. He's a reserve defensive lineman. That's not a good injury. He'll be out multiple weeks with a high ankle sprain. So the Saints' depth along defensive line being tested.
And on that same front, according to a source, Greg Olsen undergoes surgery on broken foot, expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks for the Panthers.
Yeah, so look, Greg Olsen at least won't shred the Saints like he's done many, many times in the past, but still, that's a team. It's not like they've played excellent football, but they've won 2 games. And Cam Newton, look, he didn't have a lot of snaps in the preseason. He's coming back from an injury, but it seems like at least in the first 2 weeks, that defense has kind of gotten back on track, and that's not a good sign for the Saints.
Here's what I think you can see and expect a lot of. I mean, yesterday the Patriots, because of their injuries at wide receiver, they just went to the backs and tight ends. James White targeted 8 times, all 8 catches for 85 yards, which leads us to believe that Christian McCaffrey and is it Curtis Samuel, the rookie from Ohio State, going to see a lot of action. Gronkowski targeted 9 times, 6 receptions. One of them he dropped a touchdown pass in the end zone. And then you also had Burkhead, 4 targets, 3 receptions. So they went to the backs and tight ends. The Saints can just expect more of that until they prove they can defend it.
And look, it seems like I said, the defense has kind of returned to Carolina. And like you said, Jeff, it's going to be a slugfest. I'm wondering if the Saints have any slug in them. Honestly, do they have any slug in them? I'll be very curious to see going forward.
I'll be surprised if they don't come out fighting. I mean, this team does have a lot of character in that locker room. I like the makeup. I just don't know how talented they are. But I think they've got the right mentality. I just don't know if they've got the difference makers that it takes at the NFL level to win on Sundays.
Absolutely. So it's going to wrap up today's show. Appreciate all the callers getting involved. Lots of interaction. And that's how we're going to do it on a Monday. Win, loss, or draw, whatever. You want to get involved, we'll do that. So, look, again, sports1280.com, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, all our NOLA channel. So come on back for tomorrow's show as well. So, Jeff, Clyde, good show. We'll be back here tomorrow on sports1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Please me or spend some time and rock a rhyme. I said it's not that easy.
The mortgage crisis may not have the attention it had before.